Welcome back to Winners and Losers, the show that looks at the highs and the lows from around world football this weekend. As he is every week, Chris Hamill is sat to my right, and as we do every week, we start with the talking point. This one was submitted by Joe Ibrahim, 29. Thanks very much, Joe. And he says Tottenham Hotspur, Hamill.
4 days ago, things were looking rosy for Mauricio Pochettino, beating Chelsea 1-0 on aggregate in the League Cup semi-final, and they'd also drawn an out-of-form Crystal Palace in the fourth round of the FA Cup. Fast forward to present day, and it looks like they're going to finish the season trophyless yet again, having crashed out of both competitions in pretty dismal fashion, it's got to be said, particularly the latter. That lineup against Crystal Palace was absolutely hounding. Of course, without Harry Kane, without Dele Alli, without Ben Davies and Sissoko. So this is an injury-stricken side, plus Son is out on international duty. However, Christian Eriksen was available for the Crystal Palace game, not included in the match day squad. No direct reason as to why, as of yet. Only assumption is that he has been rested for competitions that Poch values more so than the Cups, because he did make some interesting post-match comments, didn't he, about crashing out of the Cup competition, saying it didn't particularly bother him, he'd rather challenge for the top four, and the Cups at this point for him were egocentric.
Yes.
As in, he's not buying into the propaganda that you have to win a trophy for your stewardship of a club to be regarded
agree with that.
as a success. And I've said this before. I remember, is it Pellegrini or Mancini winning the League Cup with Manchester City, and that really did kick off an era of dominance for them, just establishing that culture of winning, of performing in big games at the clubs can't be underestimated. But no doubt he was trying to shine a positive light on what has become a pretty bad situation. He's now reached 4 semi-finals, with the club only taking them to 1 final. Ouch. You know what? Let's have a look at those comments, because they were interesting.
We need to be positive and be ready, because we have 2 competitions. We are in a very good position on the Premier League and of course the Champions League. That is a massive motivation for the whole club, and of course we need to be strong.
So what do you think of that then, mate? Do you think he's hurting and he's plastering over the cracks, or does he genuinely not give a hoot about the Cups?
He's definitely hurting in that moment. 2 cup exits in 1 week. He's definitely annoyed at his players. But the lineup was gopping. I think this is pretty indicative, though, like you mentioned at the start, of a man who feels potentially his time at Tottenham is coming to an end. I don't know how much further he can take this team. You look at the 11 they put out on paper yesterday, it was awful. It was a lower half 11.
Yeah.
So many poor players.
So who did we have in there in that 3-4-3, was it?
I mean, a midfield 2 of Eric Dyer and Skip is just not good enough when you're coming up against Palace, who have scalped a lot of top 6 teams.
Yeah.
You know, they've gone to City and got a result. They very nearly got a result at Anfield, and you're expecting to go there and put out a B team and get a result. It's just probably not going to happen. It just really shows how poor they are behind Harry Kane. You know, they haven't been great in 2019 with or without him. I think they've already lost 4 games in 2019, or 3 games in 2019. They've only scored 6 in 5 matches, not good enough. Llorente yesterday, he had 1 chance on the turn, should have done better. You know, Trippier, who has not had a good season.
No.
Since he's come back from the World Cup, has not been great. Missing the penalty, just all round pretty dismal from Tottenham Hotspur.
I feel for Llorente, because he is quite clearly out of his depth. He can't recreate what Harry Kane brings to Tottenham on the pitch. I did take a look at the expected goals, and in another world, Spurs might have saved that result. Because they did miss some big chances, didn't they? The Trippier penalty you've just referenced, the Nkudu finish where...
Oh my God.
It's quite frankly some of the worst marking I've ever seen from a Premier League team.
I've never seen anything like it from a professional side.
Someone take a quick free kick and find a man unopposed in the 6-yard box, and he sort of scuffed it, didn't he? Good save from Speroni for the follow-up. So they had their chances. Pochettino might be a little bit aggrieved, but...
Pochettino has no excuse for resting Eriksen in this game.
They're averaging 2 goals with Harry Kane, 1.3 without him. So we've known for a little while he is dragging this side, but they need to add attacking impetus to that midfield. And Rabiot might be that man. Apparently they've submitted an £18 million bid.
He's rejected him.
And he's turned them down, doesn't want to go to Spurs despite not being in the greatest of scenarios at PSG.
Yeah, but then there's likelihood that he's got bigger offers and better offers from other European clubs, one being Barcelona. So it's not a particular surprise that he has rejected him, despite Serge Aurier putting on his Instagram that like cute little photo. He's like, oh, stop begging it, Serge.
Serge Aurier against Chelsea, by the way, he's the most erratic right back I've ever seen. Might be a decent right wing back, but I've very rarely seen a right back give away as many free kicks on the edge of his own area as Serge Aurier.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what's going on with Tottenham Hotspur. There's a lot of problems within that squad. They've got to spend some money, but I don't know whether they've got any money to spend, which is obviously a problem for both Daniel Levy and Pochettino. I think his comments after the game are clearly him trying to save some face, because if I was a Tottenham fan, I'm sure there'll be Tottenham fans watching this, I would be fuming I've gone out of 2 cups in a week, because we're not going to win the league. We're probably going to get our pants pulled down by Borussia Dortmund to some extent.
Who will touch upon in ERU.
Who have been killing it, I think 50 goals in the Bundesliga already.
Yeah.
So I don't understand the ethos of going, we're going to play a complete second string here.
No, especially after going out of the League Cup. I mean, there might have had to have been an element of rotation owing to those
injuries and
grueling
stuff,
fixtures and the injuries. So the side might have looked a lot different had he'd not lost 3 or 4 of his first team players. So there is an element of sympathy there, but it also just highlights the brittleness, the lack of depth in the squad, and that's not Pochettino's fault.
No, it's not. That is very much a boardroom error.
Yeah, but they are going through a transitional period, aren't they?
But equally, if you're Pochettino, you're sitting there and you're thinking, when does this transitional period end? Because they've got to pay off a stadium. They've not really got that many assets they're going to want to sell, because we've seen that the squad is already pretty thin. If they sell Eriksen, they're going to have to buy big to get a player of that calibre. If they sell Kane, they're going to have to buy massive to get... they're not sellable assets, really, because they're almost irreplaceable for Tottenham Hotspur. So I don't really see where the money comes from. For me, Pochettino is pretty much at the end of the road. He's taken Tottenham as far as he can. I don't see him being able to progress that club anymore.
If you're a fan, you're thinking that maybe winning 1 cup guarantees him staying for another season, because that whole hoodoo, that whole thing, that spectre that's been hanging over Spurs not winning a trophy under Poch would have been gone, and they might have had a renewed vigour, but it's not the case. He's out of 2 competitions. Let's move on to our winners and losers. Let us know your thoughts on Pochettino in the comments below. Now we have to talk about Man United, don't we? They're our first winners. This comes from Tactual MC, and the Ole Gunnar Solskjaer bandwagon rolls on.
God. It feels so good to talk about Manchester United in the winners, and it feels so good to watch Man United again. Years now we've gone and watched absolute dross week after week, and at least it's fun now.
What do you mean? I remember Van Gaal turning over Arsenal with a second string XI.
But not in the same way.
Okay.
This was an enjoyable game. This is the revenge for when Danny Welbeck put us out the 6th round 3 years ago. That was an absolute dagger to my heart. But this one was like Manchester United of old, exposing obvious Arsenal frailties. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer getting his tactics absolutely spot on, playing with the split strikers, Lukaku out on the right, the same way that we did against Tottenham Hotspur. And Arsenal they had no answer. Kolasinac was nowhere to be seen, and Lukaku had effectively free reign for the first half. Obviously, Alexis Sanchez getting in on the act with the first goal, but again...
Nice little finish as well.
The ball, the no-look-through ball by Lukaku is unbelievable, taking 4 players out of the game, coming in off that right-hand side where he was so effective. And I think a lot of people hammer Lukaku, rightly so at times, for not being the most delicate on the ball, having a pretty dodgy first touch, not being the best link-up man. This was something totally out of Lukaku's normal school of thought.
So why do you think that he prospered from playing on the right-hand side then instead of through the middle? Because he's playing off someone?
No, probably because he had absolutely no one marking him for the entire game. Right. Kolasinac was effectively playing as a left winger, and all we did was split the 2 strikers. The 2 centre-backs didn't know whether to go out wide, and Jesse Lingard just ran straight through the middle, and Pogba ran straight through the middle.
So could afford to have a sloppy touch at times?
Yeah, at times, but he looked very confident on the day, and some of his link-up play, probably the early assist helped to Alexis Sanchez, and then the second one we break at absolute pace. Luke Shaw plays him in, cuts back. I don't know where players like Lucas Torreira are. I mean, Jesse Lingard takes a touch and could have had a cup of tea by the time he finishes it. He was on the penalty spot, 10 yards out, and he's literally touched. Yeah, come on then, should we put this away, bang, bottom corner. It's a pass it into the net. Awful defending by Arsenal on both counts.
We saw how good Lukaku's movement was at the World Cup in terms of creating avenues for other strikers, so he is a little bit underrated in that sense, I guess. So I mean, being given the nod as well in a big game for the first time in a little while must be good for his confidence.
Yeah, well,
things are all on the air.
All coming up rosy. You know, I think it's Alexi's first goal since like October, something like that as well. He's obviously been in pretty poor form at Manchester United, but it kind of suits him playing as one of the two split strikers, and it suited Romelu Lukaku. Obviously, they came off and then we were able to bring on Martial and Rashford. And I think that's indicative of the quality we have going forward when you can substitute those two out and bring on Martial and Rashford. You look at a lot of other teams like Tottenham or even Arsenal, if behind Aubameyang and Lacazette, it's a massive fall-off. For United, it's pretty much a plateau, which is good to see. Obviously, Ole making it 8 wins from 8. We didn't have the most possession. We didn't have as many shots. I don't think we had as many shots on target, but I thought United were fully deserved of winning this game. Tactically spot on, playing on the counter-attack like United sides of old against Arsenal, exposing the same frailties we've seen in Arsenal for about 15 years.
Yeah.
Just immaturity.
Although I've only watched the extended highlights, but I do have some sympathy for Arsenal because their hand was sort of forced, wasn't it, by the 2 injuries they suffered to an already injury-ravaged back line. So Socrates was forced off after 20 minutes due to rolling the inside of his ankle. He's not expected back in training now until February, so not great for Unai's men. Koscielny hasn't suffered a broken jaw as first suspected, which is brilliant news.
But he might have to have surgery.
But still, yeah, expected to maybe, well, for Arsenal to consider surgery after Lukaku's accidental knock, wasn't it? Fortunately, they have Cardiff next, who have been on the end of some ass whoopings of late. But they do have Manchester City at the Etihad just 5 days later, and the back line could look a little something like this. Maitland-Niles, Mustafi, Monreal at centre-back, and Kolasinac in a 4.
That's so grim.
And Kevin De Bruyne is back. He's purring. He must be chomping at the bit to unpick that Arsenal back line.
Jesus.
I mean, the only silver lining I could find in this game for Arsenal, after they were unpicked on the counter, was that Aubameyang has now scored on his Prem debut, Europa League debut, and FA Cup debut.
Well done.
No Champions League opposition though to complete that, collection. But the Ole Gunnar Solskjaer claim to the throne, it seems to be getting more and more convincing each week. People are starting to back the Norwegian. Not only is he getting praised for tactical elements of his performances, but people are saying that this is the best the atmosphere has been at Old Trafford in quite some time, and that should play a role.
Yeah, I mean, it should. And I looked at some of our underlying numbers, and they're not terrible. You know, since he took over, I think we've got the second best expected goals in the entire Premier League. I think we've got the third or fourth, maybe, best expected goals against as well. So, underlying numbers, pretty good. 2 bits of, not genius, but great tactical work to play split strikers against Tottenham and Arsenal. Massive results away at Wembley and the Emirates. 6 games previous to that, okay. A lot of people would have said you're expected to win them, but you still got to get the results, and some of them were really good results. I'm pretty sure he'll make it 9 when we beat Burnley tomorrow at Old Trafford. But for me, it's still too early. We've got to get a technical director, and that technical director has to make the call. And like you said, with that double substitution, look at the talent you've got in that squad. Talent. It just highlights how vastly you were underperforming before. You should be producing results like this. Yeah, we should. And it's also, let's also give some praise to players like Victor Lindelof, who has now for 3 or 4 months been quietly brilliant at the heart of Manchester United's defence, partnered by some absolute jokes. So he's doing really well. It's nice to see the re-emergence of Luke Shaw. We've just got to find a right back that's probably going to be a starter, because I don't think Ashley Young, Valencia are going to be there for much longer.
Not back in Dalot.
Maybe, but he's still very young, still only 18, isn't he? So I would potentially think about bringing another player in and using Dalot as a backup to him. Yeah.
Did you see Ashley Young's tweet after the game? Yeah. What an absolute disgrace.
6 words, 4 mistakes.
4 mistakes. Lose, L-O-O-S-E.
Get rid of that apostrophe. But either way, Jesse Lingard, he moonwalked at the Emirates, and he tagged the photo as dance floor.
Yeah, and DT was absolutely spitting, which is always fantastic to see. So, come on, Team Goldbridge.
Our first loser was submitted by Drew Liverpoolius, and he says Everton, Hamill.
Yeah, I mean, they lost 3-2 at Millwall to carry on a damning recent run in the FA Cup, but there was plenty of losers in this fixture, wasn't there? So the FA are now investigating discriminatory songs that were videoed at Millwall. Reprehensible, ignorant stuff, absolutely disgusting. And there was also subsequently fights after the game outside, which were recorded at large as well, wherein one gentleman had his face sliced open from temple to mouth. It's not the 1980s. You know, we should be able to exercise some self-control at a football game. These are people's dads, sons. Like, what is happening?
Grow up. What is wrong with people? Just grow up.
I don't know. I just think that the country feels very angry right now, and football seems to be a go-to to vent this anger, doesn't it? It's like looking beyond, you know, the looking glass, isn't it? And it's a pretty damning indictment of where we're at.
Not good.
You know, 2019, and people still chanting racist songs at the football. Just shocking, really. Let's delve back into the facts that surround the game, give you a little bit more context away from the uglier side of things. So, aside from 2015-16, when they actually got to the semi-finals, the Toffees have now failed to get to round 5 in 4 of the last 5 seasons, going out in round 3 times.
That's just not good enough.
No, for a club that size as well. The FA Cup should be something they aspire to win year in, year out.
Because they're just a mid-table nothing club otherwise.
No, it looked like they were going to go through as well. Marco Silva's men went ahead twice before being pegged back almost instantaneously on both accounts. Now, in fact, there were just 147 seconds between Cenk Tosun firing Everton into a 2-1 lead and Jake Cooper equalising for Millwall. Now, Tosun, as a result, became the first Turkish player to score in the FA Cup since Colin Kazim Richards,
great with a name,
who, you know, represented Celtic for all of 8 games, for Blackburn versus Arsenal in 2013. Now, meanwhile, centre-back Cooper is now the most prolific defender in Europe's top 4 leagues this season, with 6 goals and 4 assists in all competitions. These are Barry Douglas numbers from last year. However, his equaliser was highly controversial, going in off his arm, and with ref Michael Oliver having to consult his assistant in the absence of VAR. They weren't able to clear it up and the goal stood.
What are the FA doing? I don't understand this. Why are they implementing it only certain fixtures? If somebody can shed some light on this, please do. I'm guessing it's to do with the technology and actually having to man the VAR booths, but surely we've got enough refs to be able to do the fixtures in round 5 of the FA Cup.
Yeah, clamouring for a bit of consistency, aren't we? But the eventual hero was Murray Wallace, who scored the winner in the dying seconds to send Millwall to the 5th round for the 4th time in 8 years. Very poor defensive display from Everton though, Joe.
Yeah, particularly from set pieces. Obviously, all 3 of Millwall's goals came from set pieces. And this was a pretty strong Everton team as well. Digne, Sigurdsson, Richarlison, all in the Everton lineup. But they managed just 3 shots on target all day, comparatively to the Lions' form. Marco Silva's away form continues to be dismal. It was dismal at Hull, and now it's awful at Everton. 6 losses in his last 8 games, a run going back to October. They've won once in that time. No wonder the Everton fans are slowly starting to turn against Marco Silva, which is a shame. You know, they did have 64% possession, but Millwall worked bloody hard on the day. They won more aerial duels, they won more tackles, they made more interceptions, they made more clearances. A proper dogged Millwall display, this. Not a great game to watch, but equally fun because it was just end to end. Like you said though, the fights after the game is what's really marred the occasion here. Everybody's talking about the Millwall fans beating up Everton fans beating up Millwall fans, and just nobody wants to see it. Just grow up, you bunch of idiots.
Yeah, it was a great FA Cup tie other than that, wasn't it?
Yeah, and 3-2. Yeah, like you said, one of the ties of the round, ruined really because of you know 20,000 idiots or 10,000 idiots, probably even 1,000 idiots.
Yeah, I'd like to think it was just a hardcore sect, but moving on.
Our final winners are Chelsea, and this comes from Emily Corpy, and they've done the reverse Tottenham, Joseph.
Yeah, bloody good week for Chelsea. Obviously 2 cup wins, and they brought in a new number 9 in Gonzalo Higuain, whilst letting Morata leave on loan with a €50 million option to buy, which is pretty hefty for a out of form Alvaro Morata. They'll be delighted for that. And no disrespect to Sheffield Wednesday, we are going to start with the Tottenham Hotspur win because, you know, slightly higher calibre of opposition. But it was a big win, nonetheless, for Maurizio Sarri. And he has been publicly criticising Eden Hazard recently. Eden Hazard's not necessarily been answering back, but has also been giving it some in the press. I don't want to be playing as a false nine. Maurizio Sarri saying, oh, I really like Eden Hazard, you know.
He said he was going to let him down, he let the manager down. After Sarri, he's let
back and
Jose
forth.
down.
Everybody saw Maurizio Sarri's pretty hefty comments in the press calling out the Chelsea players, which never usually ends well, but on this occasion it seemed to. Eden Hazard, you know, reacting well to finally being moved back out onto the left to make way for Olivier Giroud, getting his 7th goal involvement in 8 League Cup games to take them to their 8th League Cup final. That's the joint most of any London club. They've now gone 46 games unbeaten at Stamford Bridge when Eden Hazard has scored.
The James Milner effect.
That is crazy. And, you know, it's kind of nice to see him back out on the left. Obviously more involved. Created 5 chances for his teammates. 4 more than he did against Arsenal. And he had 2 as well, because Giroud completed 1 pass in 45 minutes.
Yeah.
How is that possible?
Yeah, not great. He was kind of shouldering all the responsibility first half, wasn't he, in terms of the attacking third at the very least. I think he completed double the amount of shots that he did against Arsenal as a false number 9 and completed more dribbles, but just with 2 more touches. So 76 in this game and 74 against Arsenal. And one of the reasons, at least that I can ascertain, why he doesn't like playing as a false number 9 is because he's less involved.
That's what he keeps saying as well.
Yeah, but he was equally as involved and just completely had the polar opposite effect against Arsenal than he did here. So maybe just starting on that left-hand side is what he's familiar with, and that just affects his mentality when he's moved. Maybe he's being overly negative in that regard.
Yeah, maybe. Also, Tottenham Hotspur, we've talked about them already, were riddled with injuries. I think it's the first time Kane, Ali and Son hadn't started since October, so that was not great, given that they only mustered 1 shot on target. But Chelsea also did a lot of dirty work in this game, didn't they? They won more headers, made more tackles, completed more dribbles, and had a better pass accuracy.
Yeah.
For me, a deserved victory. Probably should have had it wrapped up in the 90 minutes. But it went to penalties, and, you know, an Englishman missed. Shock.
Let's touch upon the FA Cup result then, and that new signing, Higuain, because I've been taking a look at some of his numbers. So, like you said, the FA Cup victory a little less inspired, but we did get to see how debutant Gonzalo Higuain fits into this team. Only 3 shots from the Argentine, none on target, as he spearheaded a very rotated Blues XI. Ampadu coming in central midfield, and unsurprisingly a lot more defensive and had less effect on the transition than his Italian counterpart Jorginho. He only completed 1 key pass in the game, which isn't too bad from deep, but most of Chelsea getting up the pitch was left to Kovacic on the right-hand side, who actually had one of his better games for Chelsea against this inferior opposition. So 5 dribbles, 3 key passes, 2 tackles and interceptions. But Willian secured all the points with a brace, and in doing so scored his 50th goal for the club in all competitions. Sandwiched in between this was a very, very well taken
Such a good
goal from Hudson-Odoi. The chop back in, the first touch, the chop back in, and then just the steered finish. He just looks dangerous, doesn't he? He looks so comfortable on the ball.
Did you see his post-match interview with Manish? And Manish was grilling him about Bayern.
Manish, Leicester legend.
Shout out Manish, you know. He came up to him. Nobody has asked Callum Hudson-Odoi properly out in the press and just been like, are you staying at Chelsea? He says, is that your last game for Chelsea? And Hudson-Odoi's like, oh, I can't answer that question. And then he goes, Manish goes, and how much have you been talking to Bayern Munich? And you can see Hudson-Odoi's like flapping. He goes, I can't answer that question. And then Manish is like, Then he goes, I haven't. You can hear Hudson-Odoi, I haven't. He's like panicking.
Chelsea press officer is going to be livid with Manish. That was his 5th goal involvement in 5 games. And Chelsea fans will be hoping that this is Higuain blowing the cobwebs out. Of course, turned down the chance to take the penalty from Willian, who offered it to him. But since 06-07, El Papita has scored 224 goals. So the 6th most in Europe's top 5. And in this time, only Messi has a better shot conversion rate by about 0.5% as well. And only 3 strikers have had more 20-goal seasons. So consistent.
Yeah.
And if he can even score 10 goals at this point in the second half of the season in the league, I'm sure that would be Sarri will have that down as a roaring success given Morata's contribution. He was eventually hauled off in the 82nd minute and Giroud came on and got an assist a minute later. Such good interplay.
That was great interplay.
Yeah, it was really, really good. But Higuain, let's see how quick he can get firing in this side. Let's move on to our last loser.
Our final loser of the day is West Ham. This one was submitted by Costello Joe Hamill.
Yeah, they absolutely Donald ducked it, didn't they? Crashed out of the FA Cup following a 4-2 defeat to the side propping up League One. AFC Wimbledon, the Phoenix Club, rose from the ashes in this game. Game of the round for me, Joseph, embodying the magic of the FA Cup. Ooh, gives me shivers just thinking about it. Yeah, they were 2-0 up at half-time as well, so got off to a fairly convincing start. 2 moments of utter defending from West Ham. Goals from Apaya and Scott Wagstaff.
Great beard.
Who bloody got his staff away in this fixture, I tell you that. He was superb. Beard fluttering about in the wind, causing absolute chaos. It looks like an extra from Game of Thrones. And he really, put the sword to the irons, whatever.
Nice, not bad.
But the Irons did make a triple switch at half-time and proceeded to concede directly from kickoff. So
nice.
Bet Pellegrini was absolutely overwhelmed with that one. Hope was restored though with a very clean finish from Lucas Perez, rifled it into the bottom corner, as well as a beautiful free kick from Felipe Anderson. But Sibic seals the win in the 88th minute, and who's involved heavily yet again? Scott Wagstaff.
It's the beard.
The beard himself. He's taken it to the corner in the 88th minute. People, clamouring for him to keep it in there, see out the 3-2 victory. But he plays a lovely ball into the box, and some other outlandish player from Wimbledon hangs it up at the back post. And what's his name? Sibic. Woody the Woodpecker's it at the back post, straight in the net. West Ham might feel slightly aggrieved. They did dominate the stats in this game. 18 shots to the Dons' 14, although both had 7 on target.
Wow.
The Irons dominating possession with 60%. But Wimbledon showing much more desire, justly rewarded. Wagstaff, man of the match, of course, goes without saying. Don't be stupid to think otherwise. But a special mention to Anthony Wordsworth in central midfield for his yieldy name of Shakespearean times. He got 2 assists and put in 4 tackles as well. Shift.
Yeah, caps off what has been an up and down weekend for the East London club. Obviously crashing out of the FA Cup. No right to either. Middling clubs like West Ham and Everton should be doing way better in the FA Cup. Because you're not getting relegated and you're not getting top 6. So do better, West Ham. Do better, Everton. But on the positive side, Marko Arnautovic has signed a new contract, a contract extension as it was listed on the website, despite the fact it went up from June the 30th, 2022 to July the 1st, 2022. So a day. He signed a 1-day contract extension just so they could give him improved terms. He now matches the highest earners at the club, which is, I believe, Felipe Anderson, well deserved. Chicharito, not convinced about. Yarmolenko, again, not particularly convincing work from the brothers, but at least he's been on Snapchat, he's been apologising. His apology video was absolutely jokes on the West Ham website, wasn't it? Looked like he'd been kidnapped.
Like he was waiting for the DNA results on Jeremy Kyle as to whether Felipe Anderson was his or not.
Yeah, I mean, the tweet from Christian Hennig, put it on screen now, when he was saying it's like a YouTuber apologising, is absolutely nailed on.
Gold.
It's perfect. Marko Arnautovic obviously also calling up a few Irons fans, oh, I'm really sorry, I had to think about my family. Basically, he wanted more money. Let's have it right, The Chinese club were going to pay £35 million. Then they realised, hang on, there's 100% tax over here. 70 million for Marko, who are we kidding? Absolutely no chance. But anyway, he's staying, and now it seems that they're very interested in Maxi Gomez of Celta. Rumours, heavy rumours today, that they have triggered his £43 million release clause. Oh.
Yeah, they're not having the best time of it at the moment. The managers might get the sack.
Yeah, but £43 million for Maxi Gomez feels a lot of money on paper.
40, what, euros or pounds?
Pounds.
Oh.
It feels a lot of money, but never question the brothers, guys, because they have really done well in the transfer
Although this one
market.
might be a dead rubber.
Hey! Not bad, that. Not bad. Condom out of date joke there. So just always better when you explain the joke. Anyway, but let's end the transfer speculation now, because you can check out Transfer Talk, Transfer Review later in the week, because almost definitely West Ham will be involved because they're always linked with someone. West Ham, though, host Wolves on Tuesday, a pretty tasty mid-table affair there, whilst AFC Wimbledon face a battle against Doogie's beloved Sunderland to save their League One status.
Yeah, high-flying Sunderland as well,
Yeah.
but Sunderland without Josh Maguire, of course, joined Bordeaux because they owed them some money for Wabi Kazri, which is tragic.
Yeah.
It must be so hard being a Sunderland
But
fan.
positives.
So much respect for them.
Big positives for Sunderland the weekend. The return of Grant Ledbetter, 32, back to his former club.
Are they getting Will Grigg as well?
Grant Ledbetter, Academy legend.
Quality.
So that's it for winners and losers, but before you do anything else, make sure you check out ERU, Hamill. Who are you and Douglas talking about?
Oh, Borussia Dortmund, Ajax, the Klassiker, unbelievable. The calibre of goal in that game. Robin van Persie only scores emphatically or exquisitely, exclusively.
Exclusively.
And, if that's not wet your whistle enough, then go over to FDFC where our latest personal mastermind went live with Mido, the man that tried to kill Zlatan Ibrahimovic.
Bye.